Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Wednesdays at Noon. Thank you so much to everyone who is joining us and decided to have lunch with us or whatever time it is where you are. We're so happy to have you here, and we're so happy to have Nicole today, who will be joining us and who will be talking about developmental milestones and tummy time and a little bit of conscious parenting and all of the things that she loves and she supports and we also support. So before we get into that, I want to take the time to thank essential workers because we are still in a pandemic, and I want to take the time to remind people to please wear a mask wherever you go, wherever you are. Please wear a mask for yourself and for the people around you. And also, I want to take the time to specifically thank therapists and teachers and any type of educator that you are. We thank you and we love you. And you are also essential workers because right now everyone's doing everything virtually and still are being there for children and everyone who needs therapy right now virtually. And we're super thankful for everyone, whether you wear a uniform or not. We're here and we thank you. And yeah, so before we start, I also want to say that we have a 20-second lag in the comments, but we do want to hear from you. Ask us questions and leave comments, and we'll pull them up on the screen. And if Nicole has any questions, she'll also answer them, maybe at the end, maybe throughout, depending on how you're feeling. Nicole, it's up to you. So with that, I guess we'll dive right into it. Also, actually, before we do, this episode will be ASL interpreted. So after it has aired, we will have it ASL interpreted and post that version to our Facebook as well. So facebook.com/Funkus, where you're watching this right now, the ASL version for anyone who might need that accommodation. It will be there in a couple of days. So check back for that. And we can dive right into it. Nicole, could you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure thing. Hi, guys. My name is Nicole Eaton. I'm a mama. I am an intentional parenting coach, and I am a pediatric occupational therapist. And I run an online business where I help mamas through their journey of motherhood, specifically in the earlier days, like 0 to 3, 0 to 5 years, because so much development is happening with our little ones. And recently helping moms. So whether you're a stay-at-home mom, you're an employee, or if you are starting a business, running a business, and like, how do I hold both? You know, how do I show up for the best I can be for my kiddo while also making my own dreams come true? That's a big passion of mine. So yeah, I've just been blessed to be able to connect with hundreds of thousands of parents at this point through my YouTube channel, and it's a passion. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to answer some questions.
I love that. Thank you so much, Nicole, for being here. It means a lot to us. Hi, Rebecca. I see Rebecca joined us. Rebecca's on team with us. So hi, Rebecca. Thanks for tuning in. And the next question, what is tummy time? Could you tell us what it is and why it's important?
Yeah. So, okay, tummy time has like the most simple definition. Tummy time refers to any time that your little one is spending on his or her tummy, but while he or she is awake. So that's like the caveat. It doesn't count if your little one's asleep, but as long as your little one is alert and awake and they are positioned on their stomach, that is tummy time. And it's really essential to your little one's development because it's like the foundational piece of like building major muscle groups that are going to support your baby through the future major developmental milestones. So we're strengthening the neck, we're strengthening the core, we're strengthening the back, all of these great things. We're also building visual skills when we're looking at things that are placed like right in front of us. So there's so many beautiful benefits to engaging your child in tummy time.
That's amazing. So in terms of tummy time, is there a certain time that a parent shouldn't do it, or you don't recommend them doing it, or the time that they should?
Yeah, that's a great question. So every kiddo is a bit different, but I typically would advise avoiding tummy time either right before a scheduled feed or right after, because if your little one is really hungry, they're probably not going to be tolerant of being placed on their stomach. and ask to play or exercise or work hard because their desire at that moment is to be fed. And so respecting that. And then same thing with just after a feed, we've got to give them time to digest. And sometimes little ones will experience some digestive pain if they're placed on their stomach right after a feed. So I like to find that sweet spot between either a feed and a sleep, right? Where they're alert and they've got a nice little window of time where they're ready to engage with you. Their bellies are full and, they're not drifting off to sleep.
I love that. Thank you so much for explaining that. So could you tell us I think you touched on this a little bit already. What are the developmental milestones supported by tummy time?
Yeah. So again, tummy time's like the foundation, right? So if we're going to build a house and have all of these beautiful windows and like roof lines and all that stuff, we've got to pour a really strong foundation. So if you think about some of the developmental milestones that would come right after, your little one is born in tummy time. So around 3 months or so, you're going to see that your little one may start engaging in rolling, or maybe they're starting to grasp for items. They're visually finding things and they're like tracking it and they're reaching out. So to be able to move our arms or to be able to move our body to initiate a roll, we've got to have some core strength, right? And we've got to be at a point where we have developed some of our visual capacity. And so tummy time, again, is really like, it seems so simple, but our little ones are working really, really hard in that position. And so the more we do tummy time and the more we can build on your child's endurance, so going from like a 2-minute session to a 5-minute session is really indicating that they're getting stronger. Those muscle groups are getting stronger, and that's going to prepare them for things like being able to roll over and then eventually being able to sit up, right? So core strengthening, and then they're able to carry that core strength and endurance into different positions where they are working against gravity more so. So it's a really important activity and it can be fun. I think that's like a big thing that sometimes parents miss, or they're like, oh yeah, like, why do I think of tummy time as just placing my kid on some like cold, hard surface, where it's like, tummy time counts if you put your child on your chest and you're just like in a semi-reclined position, which is a great middle ground for a lot of kiddos who maybe don't tolerate being completely flat on their stomach, or maybe getting an exercise ball so you have a little bit of movement, or you can bounce and rock and sing. So there's a lot of different like playful elements that you can bring to time that make it
I was actually just thinking that was going to be my follow-up question. Is there anything you could recommend to do simultaneously with tummy time? Like, should we play music? Or I don't have children, but one day I hope to. So this advice would be really helpful to me as well. Is there something else we should be doing along with tummy time?
Yeah, again, so it's like we're really, I think the biggest thing is just like responding to our little ones' cues. You can try so many different things, and you'll, as you're implementing this into your day-to-day, you'll see what your little one responds well to. So if they need a little bit of movement, I love that exercise ball, right? Because you can rock it left to right and back and forth. And the beautiful thing about a back and forth motion is the further forward you roll your baby on top of that ball, the harder they're going to be working in that moment against gravity. But if you want to make it easier on them and you see that they're struggling, you can recline them back. So they're more in a like 45-degree angle on that ball. That's less they're working. You're giving them a break, but also, again, incorporating the movement. Facial. So making sure you're like facing your baby is huge. Like, get down on the floor with them or be in their space so they can see your smile. You can talk to them. I love the music. There's so many different ways to bring playful and fun elements to tummy time.
I love that. So before, Rebecca had asked a really good question that is a good segue into the next question. If a baby doesn't get tummy time, do their muscles not develop correctly? Our next question was actually what sorts of deficits one might see if they don't get tummy time. So it's kind of the same question.
Right. So, it's one of those things where it's like I'll get comments from parents or grandparents were like, oh, we didn't do tummy time and my kid's fine, so it's like every kid's different, and some kids will be just fine without it. But here's the deal is you may see some deficits in future milestones that you might not have linked to your child not having enough tummy time, right? And so, for instance, if you have a toddler who W sits, which basically means like their legs are kind of, well, I mean, if you were to draw a W, basically, let me see if I can, let's make this fun. So basically their legs will mirror this, like their feet would be out here. They need a wider base of support. And what that would indicate to a PT or OT is that they've got some weakness in their core. And you can trace that back to maybe they didn't get enough tummy time. Maybe they didn't have enough time on their stomach where they were working those muscles, and it carries over. Or maybe their posture isn't, they're not able to sit upright for long periods of time. So these are things that may happen and you wouldn't even think to link it to a lack of tummy time. But again, this is what makes this really strong foundation for our little ones, and ensuring that they are less likely to encounter issues along the way, whether it is sitting up, whether it's being able to concentrate and do fine motor tasks in their toddler years. It's all connected. It really is all connected, but sometimes it's hard to draw those lines unless you've had like the professional schooling or experience to see that.
I see. And Robin actually made a great comment. Core strengthening is so important as we age for overall good health. How interesting to hear how to start building that with babies. Thank you so much for that comment, Robin. And I think that is very true. Core strengthening is important for everyone, whether a baby or an adult. And me having cerebral palsy, I'm seeing that more as I'm getting older, that there's more that I could have done as a child that I was not trying to hear when I was a child when it comes to therapy. So our next question is a great segue from our last one, which is how is it possible to recapture the skills that were missed, if there were any, and how would you recommend to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is what we do as therapists too, is if we see a gap, right? If we see that a child is struggling with a certain activity that would be considered age appropriate for them, then what our job is to go back and look and say, like, what are the foundational skills that might be missing or need to be beefed up to help them achieve that age appropriate task. So basically starting wherever your child is, like maybe they do need some more core strengthening, but they've developed some other skills. So, if you had a 4 or a 5-year-old at this point and you see that their core is weak, I mean, yes, they're able to walk and do other things. So you can incorporate play differently. It's not like you're going to place them in tummy time, but there are different activities to strengthen the core, right? And so it's going back and seeing and being able to detect, where is this kiddo struggling? Like, what is the common denominator? Where's the biggest piece that's missing, and then building on that. And that's like the beauty of OT, right? Is that we just incorporate that play and to build these foundational functional skills so that kiddos are successful with their age appropriate occupations and the things that mean most to them. So, even as adults, for us, like you're saying, like it's so, and Robin had mentioned core strength, right? Like, you think about getting on the floor with your baby now, like you'll see how tired you get in tummy time, you go, I might need some core work here. And what would we do? We'd go to the gym and get core work, So it's going back to these foundational pieces that are going to make other things so much easier for us. Like you're saying, our posture, being able to sit upright, all of these things.
So I would imagine, I'm not an occupational therapist, but I would imagine that all of these skills are in some way interconnected.
Yes.
So with that, I'll say, how are oral motor skills connected to tummy time, and just the way that why are they important? Could you tell us about that?
Yeah. Right. So it's so beautiful, right? Because we can like go back to the main theme of this, which is that like everything is sort of built on that foundational slab. And oral motor skills and fine motor skills, you can look at them very similarly. And us therapists kind of have a general saying where we say proximal stability equals distal mobility. So basically what that means is our core, our centerpiece of our body, needs to be stable and strong enough to support our movement further away from our body. So if we don't have the strength and we're a little ooey gooey and we're jello-y, it's going to be much harder for us to do fine motor or oral motor skills, because we need this pillar here. We need this like core strength so that we can say, okay, I'm stable enough, I can move these other extremities and do other things. And oral motor skills are very linked to that, right? It's hand to mouth. And also we need to strengthen our neck and our body to support us manipulating food safely within our mouth and swallowing. And so again, some kiddos may or may not have that on their own, or may not be able to achieve that. But the beautiful thing again about OT is that we can then recreate that supportive environment for them, whether that's through seating, positioning, whatever else it may be. But we do want to give stability here so that we can concentrate and focus on oral skills or the fine motor skills of picking up and bringing to mouth. So it's layered, right?
Right. And Rebecca has a funny comment here. She said, is the adult version the swan yoga pose? So I guess she's asking. She's asking for herself, for some help for herself in terms of core strengthening. I love that one, Rebecca. She's a very athletic, flexible type of person. So I can totally see her trying to do that. She's probably trying to do it behind the scenes. But what types of issues, could you tell us a little bit more about oral motor skills? What types of issues are related to that milestone?
Yeah, so when you think about like what types of issues may like show themselves with oral motor skills, I like to break it down into either like a sensory category or a motor category. And so when you think about motor, like maybe your child has a hard time munching or chewing tough textures, right? Breaking it down consistently to a puree so they could swallow. And then you like, again, as an OT, we're going to look back and say like, why might there be a lack of strength here? Like, are they supported here? Are they getting fatigued? Are they tired? Are they working so hard just to sit upright that they don't have the strength or the ability to like use their tongue and use their jaw in an efficient way to eat safely? And so, you know, that's how those two can be related. That's a way that it can manifest. And then on the other side of that coin, we look at like sensory issues, which would be like, does your little one have awareness of what is in their mouth? And, you know, this is kind of a separate rabbit hole, but things we would do to play around with that and just increase their sensory awareness is using things like vibration, or using things like cold or like maybe spicy foods to just increase the sensory properties to see if like, does that wake my mouth up? Am I aware of what's in my mouth? Because sometimes it's hard to distinguish, is it a motor issue or is it a sensory issue? Like, is it a strength and endurance thing that we need to work on and maybe build the core and get them like stable so that they are a more efficient eater? Or is it a lack of awareness that they actually have some food in their mouth still? So again, OT's little investigating, figuring these pieces out.
And Lisa just said, my son still has trouble persisting at chewing. Is there a strengthening exercise we can use?
Yeah, I mean, so depending on the age and your child's interest, like something that a tool we used often were like the TheraChew Q's and T's. They're just like these silicone, almost like teethers, which are great for like younger kiddos, and they have different resistance. And so it's a great jaw strengthening activity. What I would say is that, you know, the earlier you can have your child, especially like baby, if you've got a really young one, letting them explore, and hands to mouth is so important, right? Because they're getting an awareness of like, how far can I stick my fingers or my hands in my mouth before I elicit a gag? Or can I munch on this and feel the sensation of it? So all of these seemingly like non-important little things that babies do really helps to build their oral motor skills. And then, you know, along the way, it's like if your child, just ensuring that you're offering a wide variety of foods, because sometimes we get stuck on more of the mushier stuff when our kids are younger, but research actually shows that like giving them more resistive textures when they're younger, so they can work on that jaw strength, and they can work on munching, and they can work on lateralizing their tongue, which is basically like their tongue going from side to side, really helps build that strength and that efficiency. So letting them explore different textures from a really young age is huge as well.
So I was actually just thinking about that. As you were speaking, I'm like, what about if a person is a picky eater? What if they have a picky eater and they just don't even want to explore with any of these different textures or different smells or different types of food? Is there any advice you could give to someone like that? Like, is there a way that they could, the transition or that phase could be a little bit easier for them?
That, you know, so it's funny. I mean, yeah, it's a huge question. And it's one of those things like why I started the YouTube channel was kind of like the preventative end. It's like, what are things we can do to prevent that outcome? But I understand parents come in at different stages and they're like, okay, well, this is where I am right now. And I honestly think with picky eating, and I want to be so transparent here, which is really funny because I did the baby-led weaning method, which I love and I completely recommend for parents if it's appropriate for your kiddo. Because again, there's a lot of just research linked to the importance of offering our child different flavors and different textures from a very early age, and it actually reducing eating problems later on. But I will say this to you, and this is probably like the biggest lesson I learned with my 4-year-old is it can all go smoothly and great in the early stages, but if you yourself are a picky eater as mom or dad, or you have a limited food selection, you go to the store and you buy the same vegetables or the same this and that, you may end up with a picky eater. And I never realized how limited my diet actually is. And it's kind of a generational thing because things I wasn't exposed to as a child, right? And so now, like, actively trying to expand my 4-year-old's palate. But what I would say is if you really have, because there's a fine line. Like, my child is gaining weight, he's healthy. It's really about just expanding the experience for him. But there are kids who just like have an intake issue, right? Where they're not gaining weight because they only have 2 or 3 foods that they will try. That's a different problem. And that, I would say, working with a feeding therapist is very, very important because there may need to be a protocol of desensitization, especially kiddos who might have been in the NICU from a really early age and had an NG tube, basically a tube down their nose that went to their tummy to feed them. So they were like kind of deprived of the oral feeding experience from an earlier age. That can cause a lot of sensitivity. That can cause a lot of oral aversion. And it's really helpful to work with a feeding therapist to overcome that. And that could be related to some serious picky eating.
I see. Okay. And okay, so I see you brought up the next question. Are there activities that parents can do to promote oral motor skills? I think we've touched a little bit on this, but
yeah, we were talking about it. So I like to say, like, to promote, like, the earlier the better, right? Like, there are cute little mitts that we like to put our kiddos' hands in and stuff like that to keep them from scratching themselves and everything. But that stuff like that, I would say do in moderation, because again, that could limit the hand to mouth, which is like such an important oral exploratory phase for babies, and mapping their mouth and understanding the boundaries of their mouth. So even starting that young and realizing how important it is, or like letting your child put safe toys to their mouth, right? And like exploring different textures and different sensations from a really early age is a great way to promote oral motor skills.
Mm-hmm. And then this one is actually how can parents figure out when to be worried and when should they not? And I know this is a loaded question because it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
And I even feel weird asking this for any parents who might be watching out there or might watch the replay of this. This might apply to you and maybe it may not. So, Nicole, could you give us some advice about that? Like, when should a parent worry?
Yeah. So I think it's easy for us to worry. You know, obviously we want the best for our kiddos. And so I think a lot of that sometimes comes from comparing our children to other children. You know, we may go on play dates. We may have unsolicited advice from friends or family members that make us second guess or doubt or worry. What I would say is that it's really important for parents to understand that there is a wide range of what's considered typical development. And some kiddos will reach milestones early. Some kiddos will reach milestones right at the designated like time frame that you see on the developmental milestone charts. And some kiddos will reach them weeks or maybe even a couple of months later. And that is all considered typical depending on the age and the milestone. And so if you ever feel worried though, I mean, I want to say like, trust your intuition. If you feel like something is off, it's so important to communicate with your medical team because having that open dialogue, I think will help make you or help to ensure that you do feel better and that your child is on track and you can have that conversation with your pediatrician at any point. Or if your pediatrician is also kind of on the fence or feeling like I can understand your concern, you can always, always, always ask for an evaluation for occupational therapy or physical therapy or speech language pathology. Like it does not hurt for your pediatrician to write the referral and send it off. And then it's our job as the professionals to determine like, is your child on track or is there a developmental delay? And if so, like we can help, we can give the support that you need. And so just understanding that there are a lot of support pieces in place for you. And as long as you are open and having, you know, an open dialogue with your professional, your medical professionals, that we've got you. And so you don't have to worry. You don't have to have sleepless nights. Like there are people here that are willing and ready to advocate for you and for your little one.
I love that. Thank you so much for that message, Nicole. Yeah. And I see something that Lisa just said, ask for an evaluation for early intervention. Just
yes.
What you said. I think that's really, really important. I'm so happy that we got the sound back. I'm so sorry about that, everyone. And I think Lisa just said that's the fun of being live.
Yes, exactly. Keep it interesting.
So people may not know, you did touch on it a little, but you are a parent. And you are now about to be a parent of 2, and we're so happy for you. Congratulations again. With everything that you already know about child development, what is the most surprising thing you learned as you became a parent?
Yeah, it's really funny and simple. It's like, I don't know anything. You know, yeah. You're like, that's great. I went to school and I know all this stuff, and it's easy to share all of this child developmental information, and I'm happy that it does help, but it's like the tip of the iceberg in parenting. You know, you become a parent, and you're like, oh, whoa, but what about that? You know, and it's so easy. I think that that's the thing. It grew my compassion and my empathy for other parents so much becoming a parent, because it's like you do understand that this knowledge is the tip of the iceberg, and there's so many other important pieces that go into parenting and helping our kiddos thrive and helping us thrive through this journey. And you know, we all have the days where we want to lock ourselves in the bathroom and cry because this is not working out. And so again, just kind of realizing that like this process of parenting is one that is filled with evolution, and that nobody comes into this knowing it all. or having the perfect plan, because there is none. It's all about being flexible and being willing to adapt and being willing to grow and be willing to learn. And that's a nice little slice of humble pie for most of us parents, first-time parents. So
actually, I'm going to touch on something else that people may or may not know. So with the title of this live stream, I know we use the word conscious parenting. Could you tell us a bit about that? So I know from learning about you that you identify as a conscious parent. Could you tell us what that is?
Yeah, so conscious parenting or intentional parenting, I love flip-flop between the two, but essentially it's about understanding that we come first as parents, right? Like, we are here to lead ourselves so that we can lead our children. Mm-hmm. And you know, I had this personal, like, deep journey becoming a parent where it's like, I really had to go inward when I saw that the external world was sort of falling apart as a first-time parent, and heal some like wounds, heal some like inner child stuff that was going on so that I can show up as my best self for my kiddo. And I think a lot of times society kind of puts out there that it's like parenting is just like, I set arbitrary rules and or boundaries, and you, the child, follow them. I am the parent, you are the kid. This is how it works. When really it's like, it's so fluid, and it's this beautiful dynamic relationship where it's like, if we allow it, like, our children will teach us as much, if not more, than we will teach them. And so it's being committed to, in my opinion, emotional intelligence on our end, like, so we can set healthy and loving boundaries for our kiddos. A practice of awareness, being aware of our emotions, our reactions, how we're showing up as leaders for ourselves and for our kiddos. Mm-hmm. So again, it's just this journey of like, I want to continue to grow so that I can offer the best for my child, and I understand that it starts with me. It's not my child.
You can't pour from an empty cup. I totally understand that. And even if I'm not a parent, I can see, so it radiates from you as a person that you've worked really hard on that part of your life. And if people want to know more about that or want to learn from you, I know that you've transitioned. So originally you were Kids OT Help, and you still are that on YouTube. So for the people out there who may not know, Nicole has built her own empire. She has 82,000 followers on YouTube and is working towards more. Has her own website, and for people can go to your website to learn more about intentional parenting, correct?
Yes. Yeah. My website, you will find masterminds, programs, courses, child development, all of it. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. And more recently, so yesterday, you announced something new. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah. So, you know, again, all of this is a journey, and like, we learn from our experiences parenting, but from my interactions with the thousands of subscribers on YouTube, I saw a theme that parents were struggling with within the first year of their child's life, like some major milestones where some hiccups tend to come up. And that's with breastfeeding, that's with tummy time, that's with transitioning to solid foods. And I happen to have courses on all of these major topics, but I thought, how beautiful would it be to actually just package this as a new mama bundle? Because what I found is that when we doubt ourselves, like when we come across challenges in tummy time and breastfeeding in this, it can rob us of our joyful moments. You know, like, we want to have these beautiful memories and these beautiful experiences, but when we are met with challenges, unexpected challenges, and we don't feel like we have the support, we can be robbed of that. And I really, really, really want parents to have as many beautiful memories as possible. So I figured, like, this is a beautiful package for new or soon to be parents, where it's like, I'm going to invest in myself to get the support and the resources and the expertise I need so I don't pull my hair out at night, and so that I have more freedom and space to enjoy these beautiful moments with my kiddos. Like, I don't have to figure it out on my own. So yeah, that's what that package is all about. And what's great about it is, so you have access to all of the courses that I have for a year, and then any other new courses that I will create within that year, you get access to it as well. So it's just like the major support package for my new parents. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. And they could find all of that on your website?
Yes, you can find all of that on my website. If you guys are following me, feel free to message me or email me as well, but it is available on my website.
Yes, I love that. And for all the parents out there who might watch the replay of this or might be watching right now, I'm here to tell you, you deserve. So go and invest in this. You deserve it. And I hope that they do. And again, I'll mention your YouTube channel because there's a lot of amazing things. More in depth of what we talked about today. YouTube is Kids OT Help. And again, Nicole has done an amazing job of finding her lane and really mastering that. And I really, as a person who is not a parent yet or not an OT, I enjoy watching it from, I would say, the outside looking in. So congratulations on all of your success with that.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I'm a little flustered right now because of the sound issues that happened. But lastly, I'll close with you being pregnant again and already being a mom. What is something that you will do differently with your second child?
Yeah, that's a great question. This time around, I think I'm going to allow myself the gift of leaning back a bit more. Something I couldn't understand with my first child is that there are just phases, and that we will come out of these phases, and they actually tend to go fast. It doesn't feel like it when you're in the moment and you feel like you're treading water. But, here I am with a 4.5-year-old looking back and saying, how did that happen? Where did the time go? And so just hindsight being 2020, right? And until you've lived it, it's hard to integrate that or embody that. But this time, just trusting that I have everything that I need to help this kiddo thrive. We will figure it out together. We'll figure it out as a family. We'll figure it out as a community. And again, just freeing up more space for myself to enjoy and create these beautiful moments, because they do go so fast. So
yes, and Lisa just said that. And Robin said that's such a powerful, important statement. I love that, Robin. Thank you so much. And if people want to learn more about you, I know they can reach out to your website, but you also have Instagram, right? And of course, your YouTube channel.
yeah.
And your Instagram is also Nicole Amber, correct? Nicole.Amber?
Yeah, at Nicole.Amber for Instagram. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Lisa will pull that up at any moment, just for people who need to see it at some point. She'll pull that
She's
up.
on it.
So that's her Instagram.
Rapid fire.
Her Instagram page. Is there anything that you'd like to say, Nicole, before we wrap up? I see we have about a few more minutes left. Is there something that you'd like to say to parents out there who might be watching?
Yeah, I just first thank you for being here. It's been wonderful. So thank you for having me, Shanique. And, what I want to say to you is that, like, trust yourself, because I think parents don't give themselves enough credit, and a lot of times we're looking for external validation. But you're very powerful. And sometimes we do need support, and we do need the resources, but you also have an entire world of power and knowledge and intuition within you, and you're able to serve your child perfectly well. And so we are just the support pieces, but you've got this. And I know there are days where it doesn't feel like it, but you're doing better than you're likely giving yourself credit for. So
I think that's amazing, especially now with the moment that we're in as a world, and everyone, I think, needs to hear that sometimes, especially with all of the new hats that we might be wearing. We as people and parents, as now teachers and therapists and counselors and doctors and all of these different hats that parents might be wearing, I'm sure it's very overwhelming. So thank you so much for that support and that accommodation or recommendation right now, Nicole. And with that, I think we could wrap up. I know it's a little early, but I think we're good. If there is no more questions, we can wrap up. And yes, Friday for recess, we'll have someone called Treasure Trunk Theater. So Elisa from Treasure Trunk Theater will be joining us on Friday for recess at 4 p.m. right here on our Facebook page, facebook.com/pumpkinfights, wherever you're watching this. We will be there at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, and we hope that you'll join us. And next week, for Wednesday, we'll be having the New York State Occupational Therapy Conference joining us, the Association for New York State. So we're so happy to have that. And Nicole, thank you so much for all of the valuable information that you provided today and for joining us.
Of course. I see Rebecca had a question up here, so I just wanted to address it. She asked if the new program is called Evolving Littles, and actually, no. So the new Mama bundle is the one that I was referring to that gives you access to all of my courses. And Evolving Littles actually evolved into Moms Rising, which is a mastermind that is specifically for my entrepreneur mamas who are wanting to build their legacies and also show up as intentional parents for their kiddos. So New Mama Bundle focuses on child development, those major milestones, breastfeeding, tummy time, transitioning to solids. And the Moms Rising is like a high-level mastermind for my entrepreneur mamas who want to kill it in business and also show up as amazing parents. So.
I love that. Yes, building a part just like you. You're sharing the wealth.
Let's do it, guys. Let's do it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Janine. Thank you guys for having me. It's been so much fun.
Yes, I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.